Hello and welcome to the Passion Witch Project. I'm your host, Emily Steckel, pharmacist, Reiki practitioner, and pharmacist witch. And on this show, we chat with folks who are leaning into what makes them wonderfully weird and living their passion. And today we are so excited to be joined by Dr. Jennifer Edwards, who is a conscious leadership coach, professional speaker, and veterinarian. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for this conversation.
Oh, me too, Jennifer. I'm going to start with the hardest question.
Okay.
Are you ready? And I know that you didn't look at the questions ahead of time, so this is
not.
such a treat. I love when it's organic. And let me preface this by saying you're allowed to change your mind and you're allowed to not have an answer.
Okay.
Okay. If you could be the best in the world at one thing, what would it be?
I think it would actually be connecting with people.
Oh, that just...
And I mean, like you and I connected very well when we met, and so I do connect with people, but I mean, more so like learning how to have conversations to amplify my impact in the world. You know, that kind of connection, understanding how to talk in certain ways to help relay a message that people will resonate with.
I love that, and it feels so aligned with your work as a conscious leadership coach.
Yes.
I'd love to hear a little bit more about what that means and how it relates to that idea of connection, because I think that's deeply connected.
Yeah, it's 100% connected, no pun intended. So a conscious leadership coach, I mean, that term is widely used, and I'm sure many people have different definitions. For me, what it means is when we lead either others, as in a role or a team, or ourselves in being the leaders of our lives, right? Because we all are. It's about leading with intentionality, leading with awareness, understanding not only what's important to you, what are you actually trying to create? What's present that's not working, and not only what's keeping it, what has it present in the first place, what's keeping it that way, right? What's standing in our way when we say, well, I just want to, or I've been trying, or I can't seem to get, fill in the blank. What's behind that, right? And very often people find themselves just trying, right? We try. And they try this, we try that, we try, and then people get frustrated because they end up often with a different version of the same thing. They just can't quite seem to get there because there's so much happening behind the scenes that they can't see. And when we take all of that and we bring it into awareness and people become very intentional, it's like worlds open up for them.
Yeah.
And for me, when I witness that and when I facilitate that, it's just a passion. It just lights me up inside.
Yeah. I'm super curious to hear a little bit more about like what comes first, chicken or the egg? Is it the intention that comes first, which helps draw out some of those subconscious or unconscious patterns, the things that are maybe holding us back? Or do you feel as though those patterns start to become clearer with some other kind of context? Like I'm wondering, like what's the relationship there between
I
intention?
think it's a yes and answer.
I suspected.
Yeah, so it's funny, I was just talking about this with a friend, in that we are often held back because of subconscious patterns that we have. All right, we can't see it, so we're trying to go forward and we just can't quite seem to get there. But at the same time, often where we're trying to get to is being driven by subconscious patterns.
Yeah.
So when I work with people, very often, in fact, I would say a vast majority of the time, what people come to me saying they want to work with often is not even what they end up working on, right? Because sometimes like we're driven to go certain ways, and there's nothing wrong with that. But the process of getting clarity, the process of self-awareness is somewhat cyclical. So it frees us up to move, but it also frees us up to shift trajectory into ways that are more aligned with who we are, with our authentic expression of self, with the impact that we want to have in the world. So it becomes this upward spiral in a way, right? Like we start moving in directions that feel good. We start feeling freed by all of our stuff, our human stuff that keeps us anchored. And then it just becomes unstoppable in a good way.
Yeah. So the last time we spoke, we talked a lot about the idea of you being a sort of translator, right? Of someone might come to you with something that they're struggling with, and it sounds like you're able to sort of help shepherd them to the deeper root of what's going to help liberate them. What are some of the things that people come to you with, and then maybe some examples of what the deeper kind of stickiness is?
Okay. Yeah, gosh, there's so many things. So I'll give you an example of one that is leadership in the role sense, and one that is leadership in the self-leadership sense. Okay. Beautiful. So one client that comes to mind that I worked with was a medical director for a veterinary emergency hospital. So she's a veterinarian and a corporate-owned medical director position. And she came to me initially because she wanted to, quote, be a better leader. Okay? I'm a terrible leader. I'm awful. After every weekend shift, they complain about me, no matter how nice I try to be. Like, I just don't get it. I'm spending all this time making schedules, and I just can't keep up with. They want me to write protocols, and I can't keep up with it. And I'm just not. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. That's where we started. Okay. That's the type of thing that somebody might come to me with as when they see, oh, leadership coach. What we actually got to was her truest authentic expression of her leadership was actually her stepping out of that role, which was the biggest relief for her. And as she started to learn more about her own patterns, when we worked on communication and how to listen, how to be present, how to respond to people in a way that was empowering, the team now comes to her to talk. They no longer complain about her. She just shares with me how happy she is. And we're actually now, in our coaching, we're working on things that are not even like issue-based or problem-based, because she comes, she's like, I've got nothing. And so now we're doing that next level of coaching to where we're just it's about being, right? We're just elevating the being for her. And so it's just so powerful in that regard. And then another client that I'm currently working with has come to me because she's transitioning. She was in the corporate finance world for a long time and has left. And she wants to create something. And she doesn't know what it is. She's got 5 zillion ideas. They're all floating around out here. And she wants to have a big social impact in the world. We don't know what that looks like. I certainly don't know what that looks like. My role is to help her find out what that looks like for her, right? I'm there to tell her, so what do I know, right? But in that process, what you said is I'm kind of a translator, is it sounds a little weird, but I know you like weird.
This is a space for that. As long as you're comfortable talking about it, please
I'll talk about my weirdness all day long.
I love it.
It's, very often we have this experience that everything's just kind of floating up here. It's very, because it's energy, right?
Absolutely.
It's energy, it's our higher self, it's our intuition, it's all of that. When we get beyond the mind, because we can try to think through all day long and we're stuck. But it's all floating up here, and what happens is people, they don't know how to grab it.
Right.
And so they just get confused and lost and in a swirl, so they come back down here and they try to think their way through it, which, as we just said, doesn't work. So the way I see, and this is something we talked about that day, which was, I think, a really great metaphor, is almost like being a funnel. Because when energy manifests in the 3-dimensional world, it needs to be compressed, right? Like this table, right? This clothing. So when we can take all of this and almost like funnel it down into a form that people can wrap their heads around, right? Because they're just like, they don't know what to do with all of that. And so I almost see myself as the funnel in the mirror. So funnel it down. And not that I designed this, like I'm like, sometimes I don't even, and then I take it and it's almost like I show, and does this resonate? Is this what you're trying? And they're like, yes, oh my gosh. And I'm like,
right.
I don't know, here you go.
Yeah.
Right? So I have no attachment to it. In fact, sometimes I don't even understand what it is, but that doesn't matter. My role is to listen and to feel and to put things in a form that people can wrap their heads around, because that's how we operate in the world.
Yeah.
Most people don't operate up here in the ethers.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting. It's hard to put into words, and
Yeah.
it sounds a little weird,
It
but
sounds beautiful.
it's kind of how I see a bit my process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can resonate so very much with all of this, and I think a piece of that work comes from it often comes from feeling a little bit of an outsider, feeling a little bit like this is how I assert my value, right? I guess I'm curious. I could share my own stories, but were there moments in your life that you feel through challenge, through struggle, through pain, helped you hone this particular gift?
Yeah.
And don't feel like you don't have to share anything. I'm
thinking, because of course my go-to is, my natural go-to is like, oh, well, my time as a veterinary hospital owner and my leadership. But honestly, that was a time in which I was learning more and applying everything I was learning, because as I was studying people, transformation, self-development, I would take it back and apply it to my practice. But the real origin of it, I think, was much, much younger. I always just understood things in a way that most people around me didn't get as a young person. And my childhood wasn't super easy. Divorced parents, dad never spoke to us, pretty much raised ourselves. And so there was a lot that I had to navigate of pretty much raising myself.
Yeah.
And there was always this, even as a teenager, I remember being aware, because I had no curfew, I had no rules, I did what I wanted. And even with that, I went out and I did some things I probably shouldn't have, but there was this part of me that watched me, and I was aware, and I would always joke, like, while I did maybe nothing major, but stupid kid stuff, I would always say, but I always kept myself one step short of ever getting in trouble.
Yeah.
But I never stopped to think when I would say, I kept myself, who's the I that kept me from getting in trouble? So there was always this awareness of a higher self that was actually the one who saw.
Yeah.
And then there was the me as Jennifer the person, just operating through life as the teenager or whatever. And so while in truth, I don't believe there is a duality, really. We are just one whole being. I think conceptually, contextually, again, our minds need to wrap our heads around things. I think the idea of a duality helps people to understand, well, what do you mean by my higher self? What do you mean by me? Like, it's almost like there's two separate people, but there's not. But I think it was me navigating some of my young difficulties and my maybe anger or sadness or loneliness or whatever is where this started to become cultivated. And I was aware, even though I might not have said it because I didn't have the language, that it was being cultivated.
Yeah, absolutely. I wonder, I've been thinking recently about the idea of like some folks being sort of more rapid metabolizers of experience, where, just like there are dogs or animals or people who are rapid metabolizers of like a drug or something, right? Like, I think there are some folks who just process experiences, even emotions, a little bit more rapidly so that they can reflect it back with that kind of, I wonder, what does that mean anything for you?
It does. I think some of that is natural, and I think some of it can be developed.
Oh, I think so too.
As well,
yes, I agree.
Sure. Because for anybody listening out there that thinks, well, I don't have that.
Oh, you can have it.
You can have it.
Yes.
But I do agree that there is, we are all neurologically different, right? We're chemically different, we're biologically, we're just all different, right? And so along with that comes access to intuition, cognitive processing of what we get from our intuition, because it still has to pass through the brain to come out the mouth, right? The articulation of words, like even in relationships, like sometimes a problem is one person takes longer to process and they pause to think and the other person just keeps jumping into talk.
Yes.
So being maybe even slower to metabolize doesn't mean that the metabolism isn't as good, or sometimes it might even be better because it's thought through. It's not just this knee-jerk reaction.
Absolutely.
However, I will say that being able to do that somewhat quickly is helpful in my work because, you know, I can be fairly rapid with people. People are often like, how did you do that? And I'm like, I didn't actually do anything. All I did is listen to you and reflect back to you. Because I write constantly when I'm coaching. I always tell my clients, don't think I'm not paying attention. I write because their words, their exact words, not my synonyms of their words or how I interpreted their words, but their exact words, they just tell me. And I'm like, all of a sudden I just get it, and I say, let me ask if this resonates, and I repeat back what I saw and what I heard, and they're like, oh my gosh. So there is a quick processing of it, but that's also taken time to get there.
Absolutely.
You know, it's kind of like lifting weights.
You know?
Yes. You get better at it.
Like anything, we can develop it
Yeah.
with practice. Yeah. Have there been moments that have stood out that just really feel so good in memory when you've worked with someone that you're like, oh, that was just so satisfying?
Oh gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I would say one of them was actually 2 nights ago. It's one particular person that I'm currently working with. So I start out all of my coaching relationships with an assessment called the Energy Leadership Index assessment.
Yes.
And people, it's research validated, and people are able to see, and I won't go into the details, but basically how they experience 7 different levels of energy, percentage-wise, in their life, both during normal time and during stress. And then we go through a whole 2-hour meeting to go through it. And this one particular client experienced a very high percentage of lower energy, the energies of either like being a victim and powerless, sad, anxious, and or the energy of frustration, anger, hostility, control. Like those, we call them level 1 and 2 energy. And it's, we've been working together. And it's starting to witness the transformation, for me, is like just incredible. And the reason I said 2 nights ago is I message with my clients in between if they have questions. And she had asked me about something, and I'd given her some thoughts for that day in that situation. And she wrote back, and she said, "You were so great. I am so happy that our friend introduced us." And then she said, period, and she wrote, "Truly." And coming from her, like just that energy, that display of that energy was such a shift. Just her expressing a gratitude, her acknowledging that, but more importantly, that she's experiencing her own growth.
Exactly. You're seeing it in real time.
She's feeling it happening, and she's grateful for it. It's not me. Like, I'm not doing anything. It's not like it, but just the way she phrased those words was not something, those were not words she ever would have used before. And so again, I see myself as like a facilitator of transformation. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm the messenger, I'm the translator, and I know how to ask the questions to help pull out so that people can see for themselves what's there for them. And I think that was a moment I was like, wow. I just sat there staring at my phone, and it really meant a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And it's funny. I was thinking as you were talking about the last time we saw each other for coffee, and I was thinking about like those lower vibration energies, right? Like anger, like frustration, right? Like, and how it's not a hierarchy, right? Like those absolutely have their value. And I remember
absolutely.
When I saw you, I was fresh from seeing Sophia Isella in concert, and I was like, the patriarchy. I was writing all of these things, and it was like, but I think when we can work with that energy, It is so beautiful.
So beautiful and so important, which is why I don't say positive and negative energy, right?
Yeah.
It's not negative energy.
No.
It serves us.
Yes.
The key is, do we have a choice? Do we have a say in the matter, right? There are times things happen in life. Things happen that are awful or that hurt or disappointing, or we lose somebody or a job, or we get sick, or like there's so many things that can happen, and it's normal to feel down. It's normal to have fear. It's normal to feel at times like, ugh, nothing I do works, and you have those moments where we feel powerless or at the effect of everything else, right? Because, hey, life is real out there, right? So it's not that we want to get rid of that energy. It's, you know, and I used to joke when I first started looking at some of this in more detail, I would joke that I would benefit from more level 2 energy, that anger, that frustration, that standing up and being like, oh no, you don't, like, because I tend to be an accommodator. I tend to be too nice, and as such, sometimes I get walked on, right? I was like, I want to be able to stand up and be pissed off for once.
Of course.
Right, so that would benefit me
Feels
to
good
have
too.
more of that in there, right? So sometimes we need to just sit on the couch and cry for a weekend, or just be really mad, right? The question is it a day, a weekend, or is it 6 months, a year, right? So that's where we start to look at, where does the energy serve us? When do we stop having a choice, right? When does it just start to become the way it is? Versus, you know, when I go into that energy, because of course we all do, and I'm all down in the dumps and more woe is me, poor me, right? And I'll have that for a day or maybe 2, and then I almost start, again, a skill that can be cultivated is the self-awareness, and I almost start chuckling at myself, and I kind of look, I'm like, you done yet, Jen? Like, how long are you gonna sit and mope around? And I'm like, okay, fine, you know? And then I start to look at, all right, what's keeping me here? What story am I making up and believing? Where am I feeling sorry for myself? You know, where am I giving away my power? Whatever the case may be. But it's all normal part of being human. And
Absolutely.
It's not bad or wrong. It's just looking at, when does it stop serving us?
Exactly. Yeah. Because for brief spurts, it can serve us.
Big time.
It's like, it's delicious to cry sometimes.
Right.
It's just like, oh God, it feels so good.
And one of the biggest issues that I see, especially in veterinary medicine, because I do work a lot with veterinary professionals, is the lack of going there, right? We have to just keep going. Like you see awful situation after awful situation, and you're putting your dogs to sleep, or people don't have money. It's just, you can't just curl up in a ball and cry at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, right? So it's like you euthanize somebody's baby, and you leave a sobbing family, and you turn around, and next exam room is a new kitten. You have to put that away, and you have to just be like, oh my gosh, so cute, and you have to just go on. But what I always encourage people, and this goes for everybody, not just in that profession, is sometimes we have to push it away and compartmentalize and just move on. But it's so important to go back. At the end of the day, into your pillow, in the shower, in the car, go back and get those emotions. Bring them forward, feel them, express them, be sad, cry, be angry, because emotion is energy in motion, and it's designed to be experienced, and when it's experienced, it's released. When we suppress it, it grows. So that's the important thing about it. All these emotions are all beneficial.
Yeah. What are some of your personal favorite ways to kind of work through those emotions? I like to write, but
you know, that's for me personally. I'm a thinker. You know, I'm a talker and I'm a thinker. I like to philosophize, and so I sit in it for a while. I just feel and then I start metabolizing at myself. I start questioning myself, like, what are you making this mean? You know, like I said before, and I start evaluating what is the story behind it. You know, because it's never really about the other person. It's never really about the circumstance, right? It's always here. So that's, I think, for me, how I process through it, you know, but first I'm just in the dumps for a little while, and I'm like, the challenge, one of my challenges is having that be okay. Because oftentimes what happens is we get into down in the dumps or in a funk or whatever, or we're just mad and agitated at the world, and then comes the little voice of judgment, right? So we start, what's wrong with you? Why are you letting this get you down? Why are you so affected? Why are you letting her get under your skin? Blah, 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 blah. Like, so the voice inside our head starts judging and criticizing us, which now it's like we're already judging because we wouldn't be in low energy. Low energy is by definition associated with heavy judgment, and now we're judging the judging. And so now it's just like this onslaught. So it's not about getting ourselves out of the experience. When we can turn the judging voice into a voice of curiosity, it takes practice, but we can start to simultaneously feel those unpleasant emotions and be curious about them instead of judge them. And when we start to become curious about our unpleasant emotions, it is a gold mine for personal growth. If you want one place that you can have personal growth is when you can actually objectively, non-judgmentally discern and evaluate when you are in that lower level of energy. It does take practice, though.
Yes. What are some of like the questions that you'll ask yourself, right? Coming from a place of curiosity, I imagine questions are part of that kind of internal landscape.
It's all questions.
Yeah.
I think I will sometimes first start out by saying, like, are you like almost sarcastically, like, are you done yet?
Yeah.
Like, you know, Jen, I talk to myself.
Yeah.
Are you done feeling sorry for yourself or blaming him for everything or whatever? And then I'll be like, okay.
Right.
Like, proverbially, I'm obviously not saying that out loud.
Yeah.
And then I just start looking at it like, all right, what about this made you so upset? Well, because every time they blah, 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 you know, okay. When they do that, what do you make it mean? What do you make it mean about you?
That's such a good question.
You know, how are you internalizing it? Where are you blaming? Because every time we blame, take one little ball of power, self-power, and throw it away, right? We're throwing away our personal power all day long.
Yes.
When we start to ask these questions and take ownership, take back all our personal power. So I just start to question myself of, who are you blaming? What story are you living inside of? What did you make it mean? What are you making up about that other person? You know? And honestly, there are times where I'll be like, certain parts of it I want to keep. I'm not ready to let go.
Yeah.
I want to think this about that person, and that's just the way I see it, and I'm okay with it. Exactly. Right? Like, there's no rules here.
Right.
It's not like you start asking questions and it means poof, everything goes away.
Yeah.
No, but you start to have more of a choice. And that's what it's about.
Oh, God, I love that. That's gorgeous. All right, Jennifer, how can people find you who would like to work with you?
Okay, well, my website is a good place to start, and that is drjenniferedwards.com. It's doctor with a D-R. I'm also on LinkedIn at Dr. Jennifer Edwards, and those are probably the best ways. So I love to do private coaching. I also work with teams. I do public speaking, anything I can to get the message out there, to help people to see how powerful they really are in really creating. I just truly believe like we are so powerful in creating our lives. Yeah. And that's what I'm here for.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. Oh, gosh, I hope you all learned as much as I did. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next week.